Hey everybody, movie reviewer next door here, and I'm back with another review. This time I saw, continuing the Cube series with Cube Zero. It's a 2004 horror film directed by Ernie Barbarash, and it stars Zachary Bennett, Stephanie Moore, Michael Riley, Martin Roach, David Huband, uh, Mike Nargang, Richard McMillan, Terry Hawks, and yeah. In this film, a young programmer whose job is to watch over the reality warping cube defies orders to rescue an innocent mother trapped in one of its rooms. So, what I think of Cube Zero. Again, there's going to be a spoiler alert because I want to talk about the ending as I do find it interesting. But this this is definitely a bit of a step up from uh the second film. Um I still wouldn't say it's like really good. I'd say it's about half decent. It has some cool things to it. I didn't mind the experience watching it. Has some fun moments, but let me get to the cast. Um, Zachary Bennett plays Eric Wynn. He's one of these programmers watching over the cube. Um, I've really never seen this actor in anything else. Apparently, he was in Boondock Saints too. I don't remember him. Uh, but he is a Canadian actor. Again, Canadian production, but a lot of Canadian actors. Uh, I didn't mind him. I thought he was decent enough. He worked as a lead. Stephanie Moore plays Cassandra Rains. She is basically, if the outside thing wasn't a part of if the programmer thing wasn't a part of the movie, she'd be the main character. She is okay, but I don't really know that much about her. Um, she was okay. Michael Riley plays Jax, who is kind of our main villain of the film. Uh, if there has to be one, he's kind of called down when the when Eric ends up going into the cube to try to save this innocent woman. I've never seen this actor in anything, but he's definitely a big highlight of the film. He's a lot of fun. I don't know if he's just not taking it very seriously, but whatever it is, I think his performance is very fun and quite memorable. He has some really good lines. There's a bit where he calls like the higher up or the higher ups call him, and then he whispers under his breath, "Ungrateful cretin, just do it, just kill him, you idiot." Ungrateful cretins. You didn't hear that. He has the perfect delivery for all of this, and he is a very memorable performance in this film. Um, Martin Roach plays Haskell. He's one of the like Eyes-on soldiers, I guess. I think it's Eyes-on still, like in the end of the second film. Um, he's fine, not much to his character. There's not much to many of the characters in the because you barely spend any time with them. Um, but eh. David Huben plays Dodd, who's a coworker, the coworker who kind of tries to help Eric when he goes into the or when he goes into the cube. He's fine enough. Mike Nargang plays Mayor Holt. He's the fat one. He's okay. Richard McMillan, literally know nothing about him. Uh, and Terry Hawks plays Jellicoe. Again, I barely know anything about her. Her voice fucking irritated the shit out of me. But yeah. Um so with this film, it is a prequel to the first Cube. And there's mainly really only one big thing that happens in the movie that gives any feeling of it being a prequel, and I'll get to that, but I do want to talk about some things that I'm not huge on this um on certain parts of this. First big issue, none of the main characters are really that fleshed out. You have basically three main characters. You have Dodd, or Win, who goes into the cube like halfway through to try to save Cassandra. You have Cassandra, who in a normal type like cube type movie, she'd be the main character because she's very singled out as the one who just wants to get shit done. And Dodd, who you don't know much about, but he actually does something to try to help. And I don't hate any of these characters. None of them are played unlikably or horribly. Cassandra's definitely the has the weakest actor, but I still don't hate the characters. It's just I wish the movie had didn't focus on both of these things. It's interesting to get a different look at the cube by having this outside of it. I know a lot of people hate this and they hate the way the second one ended. I hate the way the second one ended too, not specifically because of the whole like agent thing or agency thing, but more so that it didn't really answer anything just like the ending of the first one. But the first one was very well crafted and had a lot of some interesting characters that I actually gave a shit about. Here again, the characters in the cube, you can take them or leave them, just like in the second one. Again, Carrie Matchett wasn't bad in the second one. She's better than um fucking Stephanie Moore in this, but she still wasn't too much of a character. Um and again, you have two plots going on at the same time. The people outside of the cube making it run, and you have the people inside the cube. And I'd be surprised if we spend 30 minutes in the cube in this movie. And this is an hour and 36 minutes, which it's the longest one so far, which again, it's not too long at all. It's not horribly paced. The last one I'd say was a lot more boring, especially with the like every room being white thing. It made the set get old to look at very quick, and the visuals became just really annoying to me. Um, but yeah, you don't have a lot fleshed out in the cube. There's not really much in the way of tension, especially at the end, because there's a point where they're trying to like cheat to the people on the outside of the cube are trying to cheat to make it like, oh, they can't get to the exit. And again, I feel like the second one, where the second one there weren't any numbers. There's a character that mentions that, so it's apparently in the same universe as people knowing about the first cube, which is odd. Um, because as far as we know, Kazan didn't make it out, or I don't fucking know. Uh, but uh, but here, there's actually a way to get out and the points are plotted. But here's the other thing. The this cube also apparently nobody has made it out. Apparently people have made it to the exits before, but no there's this weird thing with the story. And I don't know if this is an anti-Christianity or pro-Christianity thing, but when there's a bit where they do like an exit procedure, like one of their coworkers is missing and they find out that he was put in the cube and he's asked like his name and then if he believes in God, and when he says no, I don't believe in a God who would allow something like this to exist, he gets. So I don't know what they're trying to do there, and there are a couple mentions of God by Jax and other characters, and I don't know if there's a point to that. It doesn't really seem like there is. I don't know if they're going for evil Christian villain or if you're a Christian, you get to live type of thing. I don't know, and I don't care. I'm not a fan of that part of the movie. Even though some people would say, oh, that's a nitpick, but still, it's like kind of odd. Um, there's also, again, the traps. There are some cool traps. I guess I could talk about the pros. If I think of another con, I mean, I'll bring it up. But the traps in this film are pretty interesting. There's a decent variety, even though there's more traps in this when the cube takes up like 30 minutes of the movie. At, at the very most 40. At the very most like 40 or 35, but not a lot of the movie is spent in the cube. But there's like the flamethrower trap from the first film makes a reappearance. The slicing wire trap from the first one that in the opening of the first one returns. There's one where wires wrap around you and then pull and then cut you into little pieces. There's one where a bunch of spikes come out of the walls, which I'm guessing is supposed to be kind of like the one where Kazan was making the sounds down the hole and then the trap like came out. There's one where it freezes the boot, and a really good effect, by the way. And then the boot falls on the ground and shatters, and then he pulls it back up, and there's just a little ice cube. I like that. I thought that was a cute moment. Um, there's like a sound trap that like blasts sound so hard that a character explodes. That was cool. The opening trap where this guy gets sprayed with what he thinks is water and then it starts like melting his skin like acid and his skin's like peeling off and falling and then he just ends up descending into a gross like goopy pile of bones. I really liked that scene. I think again, it was trying to do something like in the first film where the opening you get to see kind of a cool gore moment. The gore in this is pretty well done. There's not like a ton of deaths. There's like a couple pretty good gore moments though, and I will give it to that because the second film did not have that at all. None of the deaths were satisfying. All of them involved like again, CGI that's not bad. Also, the CGI here is improved. I will say. There weren't any moments here where I thought the CGI was like that bad. For the most part, it looks professional enough and this apparently had around the same budget, so that's cool. The cube itself looks a lot more industrial, and they do the color thing this time, which I am so happy that they're doing that actually, because I hated the white look of the cube in Hypercube. I hated that so much because it just again every room looked the same, and I didn't like how it was trying to be so futuristic, and it ended up hurting the film, I think. But here it's a more industrial cube. There's an actual way to get out. There's the frickin' number instead of the numbers and the whole like integer or I forgot what it was in the first film. Here it's plots on a graph or it's letters and commas to plot where in the cube you are. Which is interesting. Uh I I like the thought of somebody who actually understands what the cube does and is intimately like aware of what the cube can do going into the cube and hearing his thought process when Win goes in to try to save Samantha or Cassandra, whichever, or excuse me, Cassandra. Yeah. I thought that was a really interesting thing to see the character like visualize all this. He has some visualization moments that are fun. Um, Again, Michael Riley as Jax, very entertaining. I want like an entire movie where he's the villain. That would be sick. Um, the score by Norman Ornstein, who I think did the score for the second film, which is one of the best parts of the second film. The very like uh electro kind of poppy score of the second one, but here you've got a bit more of a like French themed one. You have some like French like it's hard to explain. Just look it up. Look up random scenes from the movie where they're doing like the hacking stuff, like the two higher ups are doing the hacking stuff. Very interesting. And still very good. The scores of all three of these movies have been definitely a step above the usual like lower budget film scores. Um again, I already mentioned the cube going back to its original type. It looks very industrial, and I saw some photos on IMDb where I'm guessing for previs for the sets and like how certain scenes would go in the cube, they visualized it with like video game type graphics. And from the pictures, if you look on the IMDb and look through the photos, you'll see it where the cube looks red. It looks like they're in like a Quake type engine. I don't code, so I'm not 100% sure what they're using for this, but it looks it's a really interesting way, I think, to visualize something like this. Um, but oh yeah, the ending. And then I have to talk about one more thing I wasn't a fan of with this, but the ending I thought was very interesting. I think it's the best ending of any of these films. Again, I know some people love the first film's ending. Did he make it out? Did he not? Did he get to live a long life? But um but this ending I thought was quite interesting as when I first saw this film, I did not expect this ending coming. The ending, again, spoilers, it's in the title, as I will say and say again. Uh, Wynn and Eric Wynn and Cassandra Rains end up making it out of the cube through the auxiliary exit. And while they're running through the woods, Jack sends like a team to try to take them out. And he ends up saving her by jumping in front, and she ends up going free. He ends up signing a paper that he has no recollection of signing, and they end up fucking with his brain. And then you cut to him in the cube where, well, we see that Cassandra is in the woods with her daughter, trying to evade the men. And she has like the picture that Wynn drew of them and talking about how he's a special person, which that was a sweet bit. And then you see him in the cube, and he's acting a lot like Kazan, who was the mentally challenged character in the first, who was also a savant, just like he is, which makes a lot of sense, and I thought was a very interesting thing to do with his character. As they didn't just like straight up kill him for shock value, they ended up just bringing him back to where he was because, as he comments throughout the film, have you ever seen the outside? And that was possibly the first time he ever saw the outside, and it was cut short really quick. And I think that's a more thought-provoking ending than the first film's ending could ever be. So I definitely bumped this up a tiny bit. Well, to 7. It's again, I still don't think this is a great film, but I thought that ending was very intriguing. Like seeing that he ends up being what Kazan is, and even referencing what Kazan said, where he's like, "This room is green." He's doing the like this thing, and he says, "I want to go back to the blue room." Somebody ends up stopping his head from hitting the wall. I like this ending. Sue me. If anybody else likes the ending, please tell me in the comments. But again, one more thing I have to mention. I'm not a fan of how this film like tries to up the stakes at one point, where Cassandra and Wynn are like going through the rooms, and then they automatically turn on traps for certain rooms, the hacker characters, to the point where they can't get out of the room they're in. And they also end up melting the letters again, basically turning it into what happens in Cube 2, where there aren't numbers at all and it's just teleporting to random places in the cube, um, at the film's convenience. And also, the only way they would have made it out is if somebody had turned off the power, which I thought was kind of stupid. But again, I don't love this film. It's, again, a huge step up from Cube 2. But I did enjoy this to an extent. And again, if there was ever like an Arrow video or like a Scream Factory like trilogy box set, Blu-ray box set, maybe even throw in the Japanese one since it's with Cinedigm. Maybe Cinedigm could do it. Um, I would very much buy that because I do think these are very interesting films. Even though I don't love the second film, I do find it to be an interesting sequel, even though it is kind of pointless at the end of the day. But still, I I enjoyed this sequel, this prequel to an extent. But yeah, um, that was my review of Cube Zero. If you've seen the film, and know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you have any recommendations, put them down there as well. And movie reviewer next door.